Guys, let me be clear up front. Some of you watching this are going to find my testing and conclusions of this video very uninteresting. The reason is that we are diving into the nitty-gritty of how important each point of acceleration really is, and for some people, they just don't care, and that's perfectly okay. So you may be asking, Spruce, why are you even testing acceleration at all? And I'll say I have two main reasons. Number one, this is a follow-up to a video I posted over a year ago, one of the first videos I ever made on this channel, and in that video, I got carried away developing equations and stating assumptions, and it was just a wild ride, all for me to ultimately conclude that acceleration ratings do not matter in Madden, and then it turned out I wasn't accounting for all the variables, and my testing was completely worthless. So now, a year later, I want to make that video again, but with less math and better variable isolation, so we can find out once and for all how much acceleration ratings really matter in Madden. Now, I do also think there's a practical purpose to all this analysis, and that brings me to my second reason for doing this video, and that is to settle the debate from this year in MUT of whether you should use Sprinter or Brawler chems on your players. Now, as far as I know, pretty much every MUT player was using Sprinter this year, and they did not give Brawler even an ounce of consideration. But that's where the testing comes in, and I think we're going to find out it's a lot closer than you think. Let's get into it. Now guys, before we get into the testing, I just want to ask that if you enjoy the video, please do me a huge favor and smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It makes a huge difference for getting the video pushed out to more people and helps the channel keep growing. But right now, let's get into the testing, and let me back up to the very beginning. And I did 4 different tests, and I did 2 tests on current gen and 2 tests on next gen. So we're going to get to see if there's any difference between current gen and next gen. And for the first test, I did go routes. In the second test, I did standing sprints. You'll see in a sec. But this is going to be go routes. And we've got 3 players right here. And I'm using the same players from when I did my testing for height. So their jerseys still say short, normal, and tall, even though I did change all their heights so that they're all 6'3", because we do know that different players of different heights, they will get a little bit better acceleration off the line, at least on a go route in the first probably like 4 or 5 steps. But these guys are all 6'3", and from left to right, player number 1 has 80 acceleration, player number 2 has 90 acceleration, and player number 3 has 99 acceleration. And besides that, they have all 99 everything. So these guys are all 99 speed. I'm gonna go ahead and let it play. Hey guys, this is Editing Spruce Goose here, and I'm realizing now that I might get some questions about why I'm having the players run 50 yards for this test. And the reality is that this didn't have to be a 50-yard run, because all we really need to see is how far apart each player is once they're all running at top speed. The moment everyone is at top speed, the amount of separation they have on each other isn't going to change since all their speeds are equal. I just thought 50 yards was a nice clean number, and it's nice to have the goal line function as a finish line. If you're thinking about acceleration in terms of, say, a running back taking a handoff, then getting up to top speed, I would recommend pausing these tests when the players are 5 yards downfield and then 10 yards downfield, and that might show you what you're looking for. Also, later in the video, I'm going to do the same type of test, but with players that have different speed ratings, and obviously it doesn't make a ton of sense to compare these 2 tests, because with players that have different speeds, the amount of yards of separation they gain on each other will be directly correlated to how far they're running. So that test might not be the perfect fit for this video, but I do think it's still interesting to see, and I do still think that all of my conclusions in this video are valid. So with all that in mind, I'll let you guys get back to the video, and you guys will be able to see how, like, not that much of a difference there is for a pretty big ratings difference in acceleration. I'm going to go pause it when they get to the goal line this time, and what we're going to realize is that, well, let's pause it when number 3 hits the goal line right there. This is a 20-point difference in acceleration from number 1 to number 3. And what's that getting you? About 2 to 2.5 yards of distance of separation over a 50-yard run. And so already we're seeing that acceleration is not really factoring in very much at all. If we compare number 2 and number 3, that's 90 acceleration versus 99 acceleration. That's maybe getting 1 extra yard of ground covered over those 50 yards with a 9-point difference in acceleration. And so in most cases, if this was just a difference of like 2 acceleration points or 3 acceleration points, that difference becomes completely negligible, like almost unmeasurable, I would say. And so I think this is very interesting, again, that the difference between 80 acceleration and 99 acceleration, all else being equal, is only 2 to 2.5 yards. And it really made me realize the acceleration really isn't doing that much for you. It's not doing nothing. It's obviously doing something. And so obviously my old video from a year ago where I concluded that acceleration was completely meaningless, that was wrong. But it's not doing a whole lot for us. And right here, guys, just to because in my last video from a year ago, when I did the testing only with go routes, people said, well, acceleration doesn't apply to go routes, even though it absolutely does. it applies to your ball carrier. And so I did the same test from a standstill, and we got nearly identical results. I might have paused it a tad late for number 3 crossing the goal line, but we saw pretty much the exact same yards of separation between the 80 acceleration player, the 90 acceleration player, and the 99 acceleration player. And so it really is only about 2 to 2.5 yards of separation for a almost 20-point difference in acceleration rating. And so that's on current gen though. Now on next gen, which is going to be the next test in just a second, people were saying, oh, acceleration is a lot more important on next gen Madden. And it turns out that's not actually the case. I mean, it might be a tad more important. I'm gonna pause it again when number 3 hits the goal line, and we're gonna look at the separation between players 1, 2, and 3. And these are the exact same stats and everything, where number 1 is 80 acceleration, number 2 is 90 acceleration, and number 3 is 99 acceleration. And it's a tad different. Like, I think that I'd say it's about 3 yards of separation between number 1 and number 3 compared to 2 to 2.5 yards on current gen. So acceleration is slightly more important on next gen Madden, but it's still not that important. At least, like, if you're going to compare 2 players, let's say 2 players of, again, like 95 acceleration and 93 acceleration, there's really no reason for that to be a factor in why you would choose one player over the other player. And you may be asking, well, who's actually using acceleration ratings to compare 2 players? And I know it doesn't happen a lot, but the example I used in my video a year ago was actually if you were over in regs and wanted to compare Preston Williams and Willie Snead, you got one player with 89 speed and 94 acceleration, and one player with 90 speed but only 87 acceleration. And so the player with +1 speed has 7 points less of acceleration. And if you were actually paying attention to the stats, you may actually wonder, well, do I want the guy who has 1 less speed but way better acceleration? Like, I think that's a fair question to ask in that case. And so that ultimately is what inspired all of my testing for acceleration and whether it really matters. But this was the next gen results. And again, you guys can see that acceleration just, it doesn't really matter that much. And the reason I say it doesn't matter that much, I guess I'm saying it doesn't matter that much compared to speed ratings at the end of the day. And so what I'm going to show you once we get through this next gen standing test, and I'll pause it again on the goal line just so you can see the difference. I'm going to do the same test, guys, but with 80, 90, and 99 speed, and you guys will see just how more important speed is than acceleration. And here's the results again. It's pretty consistent with everything that we've seen so far, where, yeah, about 20 points of acceleration gets you an extra 2 to 3 yards maybe of separation over a 50-yard distance. So this is the acceleration test, guys. And like I said at the very beginning, this might be very boring to you, but I think that with the context of the speed test I'm about to show you, I think that these results are a little more interesting. So I'm going to pull that video up right now. Let's take a look at the speed test. All right, guys, now here is the side-by-side speed test. And to nobody's surprise, we find out that speed is a lot more important than acceleration. I don't think anybody was saying that acceleration was equally as important to speed. So I want to be clear, I'm not trying to prove anyone wrong who was saying that, because no one was saying that. But let me go ahead and pause when number 3 hits the goal line, and we could see just how important speed is relative to acceleration, where now the 80 speed player is about 7 to 7.5 yards behind the 99 speed player over that same distance. That is a huge gap over just 50 yards. And so I know everyone already knew that speed is more important than acceleration, but now let's talk about the practical application that I mentioned in the intro. Let's talk about Sprinter versus Brawler. So if you have 40 Sprinter chem on your team, then every player with Sprinter is going to get +2 speed, +2 acceleration, -2 strength, and -2 agility. And compare that to Brawler, where every player with Brawler chem, if you have 40 Brawler chems on your team, every player is going to get +2 speed, +2 strength, -1 acceleration, and -1 agility. And so Brawler compared to Sprinter gives you the same speed, +4 strength, -3 acceleration, and +1 agility. And as you guys saw in the test before, -3 acceleration is going to be a negligible difference. I think we saw that a difference of 9 acceleration points was like a yard. And so -3 acceleration, that is going to be a tiny fraction of a yard. I don't think that's going to be a perceptible difference in game. And compare that to gaining an extra point of agility and gaining 4 points of strength on your players. When I saw that, I realized, oh my gosh, I should have been using Brawler all year. Now at this point of the year, our players are good enough that we can be using Shaker. We don't need Sprinter or Brawler, hopefully. But for a lot of the year, I was using Sprinter. And in hindsight, I should have been using Brawler, because ultimately, while acceleration is not completely meaningless, acceleration is not very important. And personally, I think a lot of people were using Sprinter over Brawler because Sprinter was giving +2 acceleration and Brawler was giving -1 acceleration. So people were making decisions this year for their teams based on acceleration ratings, which ultimately do not matter as much as we think. So guys, that's basically the whole point of this video, that if you're still playing MUT right now in July with about a month left of Madden 21, if you're using Sprinter cams on your team, I definitely recommend switching over to Brawler. You don't need those extra 3 acceleration points. Put those points into strength, save a point of agility. It's going to make your players perform just a little bit better on the field, in my opinion. Now, obviously, these results only apply to Madden 21. If you guys want to see the same testing for Madden 22, please let me know in the comments below. If you guys say, no, this was super boring, we don't like this, I'll just do the testing myself. I won't post about it. But if you guys enjoy this test or want to see any other testing, please let me know. I do enjoy the testing, and if you guys are interested too, I will keep sharing them with you guys. But anyway, that's all I got for this video. Again, guys, if you enjoyed it or found it interesting, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It helps me out a ton. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a great one, and I'll catch you in the next video.